Okay, this is part 3. Dive into here again, and this is only going to be for the Flash 8 Pro people. Get open this start file, and again, there are going to be a few more files in here later, but for right now, just open up that, and on your own, just go ahead and create a new file. Name it. You can name it whatever you want, but I've named mine On Edge. That is named after the text that we're going to drag from the library. Pop it onto the stage. Go ahead and also get this other thing in the library called number 3. You can put them both on there and then just cut them off, get them out of the start file. You can go ahead and close this down at that point and then paste them into your new file here. Okay. So what we're going to do is set up something kind of like this, but let's fancy up both the text and our kind of paintbrushed number 3 here, and of course obviously we'll be doing some animation as well. So just for the time being, what I'll do is I'll actually just delete that 3 off of there, but it is in the library now for this file. And where to begin here? First off, plain white is nice, but let's go and add kind of a chrome effect to this. So I'm going to double click inside of here and just select this whole thing. You can go over here now to your paint bucket swatch. Just click on the gradient for right now. It'll probably fill in like this, where each one of the letters has a kind of the entire gradient. What I want you to do then, if that is the case, is go ahead and grab your paint bucket, and with that swatch still in there, just click over the entire thing, and it should now just take this the white just straight over to the black over there on that edge. And what we're also going to do is, with the gradient transform tool, click on that, select in the middle, or anywhere I should say, and just pull this handle out here. You'll notice probably it's kind of obvious what's going on. And then just rotate it like so, and actually make sure that your this kind of blue bounding box here is just, top of it is over here by the top of the text, and the bottom is on the bottom. And there we go. That looks a bit better, but we'll make it look even better than that. Go ahead and select all the text again, and get your color mixer open. Okay. You know, let me just move this. There we go. Alright. On this swatch, we're going to leave this as a full white. Click down right about here. Actually, that color is probably okay. Click right here, and then we're going to make it a little bit lighter. So just go up like that. And let's do another swatch right on that side. This one you might be able to leave alone as well. Click right here. And this one, somewhere around this range. And then on this one, we're just going to make it a bit lighter. So it should kind of look like, when you deselect, there's a little bit of underlighting over here. I think what I'll do though is make it a bit darker up around this part. So I'm just going to select, let's see, one of these 2 swatches, maybe actually both of them. There we go. Yeah, that's kind of nice, and it should sort of appear like it's just rounding out a bit up there at that point. And if you wanted, you could put another swatch. Let's see, right here. Make that one a bit darker too. Okay, so get something approximately like that. Doesn't have to be identical. And we will now click out of there. Alright, so copy this, just paste it down here. Just move it right below that one. I'm going to now go over here to duplicate symbol. This is, again, don't forget, this is going to make you a unique copy of this in the library, so we can mess around with it. It won't affect the other one. We're going to call this on edge text, a stroke only. Alright. Once you do that, double click inside of here, and with the ink bottle tool and with a stroke of white, just click on the inside of here. I have my stroke value set to 1.8 or 2. Either one's probably fine. Get through that whole thing, and then once you're done with it, just just select inside the middle part, the fill part, and then just delete it out. I'm just going to shift select so I can get them all at once and just Hit the delete key only one time. There we go. Oops, missed this one part. Okay, so we got that. Let me move these up a little bit. And now what I want you to do is copy this, paste it below here, and I want you to duplicate it one more time. And we'll call this on edge stroke animation. Okay, and what we'll do is kind of delete out parts of this stroke and have them come in 2, 3, 4 strokes at a time until they finally fill in this entire stroking right here, and that'll be kind of blurred, or not blurred, but glowed out, so it'll be kind of bright. If you guys have ever seen the animation of the 24 TV show logo, not identical to that, but something kind of similar, where you see parts of the 2 and the 4 just and then finally it all comes together. So that's a little reference for you, but let's do this. Let's kind of assemble how we want this all to look, and then we'll kind of work backwards in terms of getting the animation in there. So one thing we will do is put a glow on this text. So I'm going to click on filters down here, just hit up glow, and as nice as red looks, let's go with a blue. So if you guys missed that, that is the, if you look right here, you'll see the kind of hex value of it. You can just type it in if you want it to be identical to mine. I'm going to set the X blur up to 89, and then this I'm going to go just up to probably 30. And as for strength, I'm going to take this actually down a little bit. There we go. You know what, one other thing I'm going to do is double click inside of here. I'm just going to select all this text and copy it. I'm going to create a new layer. I'll just call this text black and text gradient. And I'm just going to paste underneath, oops, I'm sorry. I'm going to paste onto this layer that same text. But I'm just going to make it totally black, so I'm just selecting this one swatch here. And just so it's a little bit more obvious so you can see it, I'm going to show that as wireframe for right now. And I'm just going to kind of get it right underneath, but off to the side and off to the bottom a little bit. There we go. Something, when you see it over here, it'll be obvious, because it just needed some sort of little backing on that, with that glow back there. And you could even go and select it and go to shape. Let's see, we'll go to expand fill, maybe do it by 2. See how that looks. Now that I do that, I'm just going to nudge it up and over just a tad. So something like that. Okay, and now for the this stroke right here, I'm going to bring that up. I'm just going to kind of set it up a little bit like this. Actually, maybe even just a tad lower. Take note of that. I'm going to put this other one kind of up on top of that as well, but just for right now, what I'm going to do is work the filters on this this stroke, and then we'll worry about that one. First filter to apply will be this drop shadow right here. We actually don't need to make any adjustments to that. That came in there pretty nice, so we will go proceed on to the next one. And that'll be the glow. And look at that. Now, suddenly, that's looking a lot better. And oddly enough, I actually like, oh, jeez. My email. I actually like how this is looking as well. So we won't make any adjustments to that right away. And one little thing to note, though, that there is a stacking order to these filters. So if the drop shadow were actually underneath the glow, and you can just drag this underneath here, you'll see something a little bit different, because when the drop shadow is applied first, the glow effect actually gets applied to the drop shadow as well. Does that make sense? Whereas up here you can see that the glow actually only takes place originally on the on that white stroke around it, and then the drop shadow is actually separate. So I just took that strength up to show you guys a little bit better, but get that back down 100%. And again, I want my drop shadow to be the first thing applied on there. Okay, next up is the stroking that we're going to animate. So this one we're going to, well, let's get it into place first and we'll talk about it. So we get it set kind of right about there. You want there to be just a little bit of a gap up between the two strokes. Okay, so a good reference point is actually kind of this corner on the E right there. You can kind of make out about a pixel's worth of distance between the two. And by the way, I haven't actually gone crazy. I do realize that this doesn't look anywhere near as good as just having it like that. This is much cleaner, and this almost just looks like just overdoing it. But this is mostly going to be used just for animation, and then what we'll do is just kind of fade it out toward the end. And what you can do, actually, just to get a good idea of one stage of this, would be to go ahead and put on a glow. This time we'll do the opposite. We're going to put the glow on first, set it to being white, and do the X blur at 20 and the Y blur at 15. I'm going to set the quality up to high. Okay, and this time take the stroke all the way up, the strength all the way up to 1,000%. And you can kind of get an idea of just kind of one frame of how this thing will look when it's all kind of blown out, and then we're going to take it back down again. So it's that kind of ultra shine, and that'll eventually fade away. Go ahead and also put a drop shadow on here, and that'll just, if you kind of had your eye on it, it'll just kind of control it a little bit. Like if you were to undo it right now, you'll see that, I don't know. I just think this is a little bit better. But again, could be your personal preference. Anyway, so we can do this. We can leave that on for right now. Just keep in mind, eventually we will get more toward this at the end. But it's actually time to go ahead and start animating this. So let's leave it kind of blown out like that. That'll be one of our starting images. Actually, that's not entirely true, because that's the stroke animation we're going to kind of slowly piece in. I'm just inside of this symbol right now. So it'll be bits and pieces of this at a time. And you know what? Let's do this. Go get back up here and just select all three of those pieces. I know they're stacked on top of each other, so you can just go select all and right click, go to distribute to layers. Nice thing about doing that is, of course, the layer names do get the symbol names like that. Usually end up with one blank one. You can just delete that off for right now. Go ahead and give yourself a little bit more room out here on the main timeline. Go to insert frame. And in fact, 60 or so frames should do it. And yes, lock the bottom two layers. We are just going to be now playing around with the stroke animation. Double click on this guy and do this. Select out maybe 40 frames here and then hit F6. Okay, what that's going to do is it's going to insert in keyframes for every single one of those frames there. It's something we rarely do, but there is a reason for it, because what I'm going to have y'all do is delete out bits and pieces of this just almost randomly. Okay, and to get you started, what I'll do is, actually, let me get up to the main timeline and just make these other layers invisible. Just be a little bit more clear so you can see this. So I'm going to select all, okay, and then I'm holding down the shift key. I'm going to just select this top part of the O right here, and maybe this part. And then, let's see, I'll grab a little of the E and maybe one more stroke. Okay, you notice how I'm actually deselecting pieces of the stroke right now. And with the majority of it still selected, I'm just going to hit backspace. All right, and you'll see now, if we were to jump back up here to the main timeline, how this will kind of play out a little bit. Okay, so now you get this kind of blown out little pieces of this. It's little shards of the text that are coming in. So let's go and I'll do a few more on screen, and then what I'm probably going to have to do, just for the sake of time, is pause the video and have you guys fill in the rest on your own. But yeah, let's take a look. And I'm not really making logical jumps, although if you wanted to, you could just kind of keep track of what you did the frame before. See how I'm showing, that one stroke right there. So maybe on this next one, go and show a piece of that, this one, and then this one, and then over there. But I'm actually hesitant to mention that because you could kind of get, your brain could get kind of fried trying to do something like that. In my test version, I just went from frame to frame and just totally it was random. The only kind of logical thing I started to do after a while was I began revealing more and more as I went through. Okay, so just kind of keep jumping around, but like on frame 5, and maybe this is a way of remembering it, is just go and deselect 5 little pieces. Okay, and then on the next frame, frame 6, go and deselect 6 at random, and so on. And eventually what will occur is when you get out here, it'll just make more sense to, instead of deselecting pieces, just deleting pieces. Okay? So eventually you will end up showing the whole thing. Alright, so again, I'm going to pause the video and then I will return with all these frames kind of filled in here. And again, I actually didn't count how many of these little chunks there are, but I think about 40 frames should do it. Okay, did everybody do that? What I'll do is I'll thumb through mine. Actually, you know what, even better? Let me jump up here to the main timeline, and I'm going to set my frame rate down low. You don't need to do this, okay? Just so I can publish this and show you how it's looking. So bump, 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 bump. They're all just kind of random, filling in more. And then like that. And one tiny little nice bit I did at the end is the last, or toward the last 3 or 4 frames, I just picked out 3 spots on here that I just took out the stroke, and then slowly at the end I kind of filled them in like that. So that should look kind of good. I don't think it came through in the screen capture, but hopefully in the final animation, when you look at the SWF file, it should look quite nice. And by the way, if you did ever want to just test this out on the main timeline while you're working on it, you could temporarily switch your movie clip to a graphic clip, and if you do that, just go and set it to play once or a loop, and then you can just kind of thumb through this here. Although, you know what, I didn't even think about this, but I just lost my filter. You can't put a filter on these graphic clips, so never mind. Best to just publish out. Okay, let me get this frame rate back up to 15. You could go with 15 or 30. I tend to like to do one or the other, but both are pretty friendly for if you wanted to export to some sort of video format. So that I think is looking good. What I want to do now is jump back inside of here actually and just put a stop action at the end of this. Okay, so I'm going to hit F7. That's going to do a blank keyframe. Hit F9. That'll open up your actions window, and oops, don't want to do all caps, just typing in stop. Again, just make sure you do have it on that frame, and that'll keep that from looping through. Okay, now let's get even fancier with this. Temporarily, let's just lock up this top stroke layer, and we're going to play around with the middle one here. So let's do this. Since we do have it in a nice state right now, we want to kind of go back to that when we finish the animation. So let's put a keyframe toward the end here. Again, like I was saying, we're kind of in a way working backwards with it. And then at the beginning, what we're going to do is first, actually, I'm going to make this bottom layer invisible, just so you can really see what's going on here. So I'm going to go to filters, click on it. We already have that drop shadow and that glow on there. What I'm going to do now is add on one more filter. This is going to be a blur, okay? And I'm going to set the quality up to high. And I'm just going to take the Y down to 0, okay? And then just totally bump up the X like that. All right? And in fact, to just kind of further accentuate that, I'm going to scale it out like so. Okay. So now if I were to motion tween this right now, it's going to kind of come in like that. All right. It's kind of flow on in there. And in fact, you know what? Let's do one other thing. Let's put a keyframe right here. And then at this point, the very first one, I'm going to fade this in. So I'm just going to take the alpha down like that. So it's going to come up like that, and then like that. Let's do this. Actually, let me set my frame rate back down pretty low again, and let's give this a little bit of a test. Alright, so that's totally kind of blurred out. And granted, this will really play back a lot faster once the frame rate's back up. And then I think at this point, what we'll do is we'll then fade that back down again. It did start to loop over there. So let's do this. Let's take note, actually I'm going to lock up this middle layer. Let's take note of when this is kind of at its extreme, which is at about frame 30. Yours might have been at frame 40 if you did go and do that stroke animation all the way through there. I just kind of gave up after 30 frames. But so the 30 or 40 range, what we'll do is we'll keep in mind up here that that's about when we're going to fade down the that total kind of 1000% glow that we have currently on here. Because if you remember, if you go to our filters, we have this glow set at not 100%, actually 1000%. All right. So let's put a keyframe, we'll go do like maybe frame 35, 36, and do another keyframe right here. And at this point, let's go to our filters. That's we're going to take this down to 100. Oops. I didn't like that. Okay, that's going to be at 100. And we could actually consider changing the glow color on it if you want to go with some sort of maybe a blue or a red as well. That might not actually look too bad. You might not see it too much either. I'm not sure if you would, but okay, let's go and put a motion tween right in here. So that's just gonna, and you can see what's going on with that little bit of the stroke of it. It's kind of almost even hard to see that there is that glow at that point. So it goes down, and you know what, I'm going to take the drop shadow, and I think what I'll do is maybe play around with either the angle, if that's even noticeable. Yeah, it is. So I'll move that at that point too, just so there's a little something extra happening there. It might look nice. Kind of like if the lights are fading down, then the shadow is going to be affected a little bit as well. And what else should we do here? Let's lock these, and let's play around with this part. Definitely let's kind of save the state that we have, so let's go ahead and put a keyframe here at the end. We'll keep this one simple. We'll just fade this all the way down, so we'll take the alpha down on it to 0%. Let's do a motion tween in here, and you can sort of scrub through and see how that might look. I think I'll pull this just off of frame 1 just slightly, so it takes a little while getting in there. By the way, let's I'm thinking about it, let's ease out some of our animations so far. I think that'll look a lot better for this for that middle layer, and also just in general, it always looks a bit nicer. In fact, we could even ease this one out. Okay, so this is still down at 4 frames per second. You know what, I guess I'll test it out. So here we go. And coming together, that'll fade out, and then we can see what's underneath it there. And you know what, I think we should pull that out just a little bit. Let's see how that looks. And there we go. So everything kind of comes together at once there. All right. And now let's do this. Let's go and pull kind of the same trick that we did before in one of our previous examples, where we just copy all these frames and we're going to go ahead and put them into one symbol. It makes it much easier to use. So we will go to copy frames and let's go insert new symbol. We'll call this on edge text animation. Alright. And then let's oh, what am I thinking? Just paste in those frames that you got in your clipboard. There they are. And let's also do this. Let's create a new layer up here. We'll call this actions. And we got to make sure that don't have this thing looping through. So we'll go to stop. Okay. Let's get back up here to scene 1. We'll now create a new layer. We'll call this on edge text animation. And let's go ahead and just delete out these other ones. Pop open your library. And there it is. Okay. It's kind of hard now to tell exactly where this where to position this at. Sometimes what I'll do while I'm working on something is just go and pull out, for example, all these frames, and then just take one of the final frames and put it at the beginning here. If you did do something like that, just for just the purposes of being able to get a visual in your workspace, you could always put a line of script here right at the very beginning that just says go to and play, oops, capital P 2, and that way when you actually publish this, you won't see that frame. It'll be like it kind of doesn't exist. So just one of those random little tidbits to help y'all out. Alright, that's not all that we're doing with this, though. We still get to have a bit more fun. So at least now I know where this on-edge text will eventually end up. And let's do this. Let's go and put a keyframe maybe right here. And I'm just going to create a motion tween just so we can have this thing doing a little bit of animation itself. So we'll ease this out. So it's just going to kind of come in there. So it's just kind of moving along as well. I think that looks kind of nice. And that'll finish up at that spot. We don't need to see the rest of it. We've seen that a few times. Let's jump inside of here. And at this point, I'm going to create a new layer. We'll call this number 3. For my fake movie title here, this is part 3. So with the library open, okay, remember we did copy and paste this into the library before. It's just this number 3. So I'm just going to drag this out, pop that on there, and let's drag this right over to maybe right here. Let me just check something. Maybe I'll move this over just a bit more. Or do I feel like scaling it down? You know what I might do? Just make the stage a bit wider. Okay, so and yes, we will show that this is part 3. But let's do something a little bit different with this text right here. Not much, nothing drastic. I'm just going to put a bevel on it. When I was playing around with this earlier, that looked a lot nicer with just a subtle little bevel. So let's go, and for the X and the Y, let's take these down to 3 and 3. In fact, you know what? Actually, let me take it down to 2 and 2. Okay. And for the distance, let's go 3 for starters. I might adjust that as well. I like the white part, but for the black beveling on the opposite side here, let's go and try something just a little bit different. Maybe something like that. And It's not something I normally do, but I think it actually works for this logo because we do have some hints of blue throughout here. What you could even do is maybe tilt the angle a bit, just depending on where you want to see that blue coming from. Granted, the blue that we do have on here is kind of in this area, but you know, this would imply that there's a blue light coming up from this side. I actually don't mind that. I don't know. I like it more visually like this. So I'm just going to leave it over there. And for the highlight, let me try this. I'm going to see if it looks better with a kind of a yellow or a, let's see. Yeah, something like that. Just not full bright white. So I guess this is, if you take a look at the hex value over here, that's what we got. Or even a pink, that's not bad either. So, all right. For this, let's just do just kind of a big slam down with it. So I'm just going to put a keyframe right here. I'm going to create a motion tween on this one. I'm just going to make it huge. So it's up there nice and big. So it's just going to go boom like that. And let's do one keyframe right after that. And then on this one, let's go and scale this down just a little bit. So it'll kind of pop back after it lands. So it's really big and boom, like that. If you want, of course, you could start it over here, a little further to the left. Doesn't really matter too much. And let's give this a shot. Let's see how it's looking. That'll come down. Boom. Something to consider. Let's do this. Let's move this text over to the left at about the maybe the 50th frame to the 55th. Okay, so we're not going to do it in here. Remember, we are moving it up here. So let's just go ahead and shift these frames a little bit. So I said 55, it'll be over at this side, and then we'll have it centered up in the beginning. So you know what we'll do is let me just clear this frame off of there. Sometimes it is a little easier to just start over. So there we go, it's centered up now. And frame 50, 55. I'm going to set the easing to ease out. So that way our eye will stay kind of visually locked on this thing throughout, and then only when we need the space it'll kind of move off to the side like that. In fact, this is another little part where we could go and do that kind of counter animation where we'll do a frame after that and then have this one kind of go over just a little bit further this way, and then it'll just kind of come back. So it's those things tend to work well with some sort of swish or swooshing sound. And then at around, let's see, frame 57, that's when this stops moving. It will slam down with that number 3. So boom. I think that ought to look pretty good. We'll watch it at least one more time here. Okay, and the lights are kind of blowing it out. There it is. Kind of settles down a little bit. And then, bam. Okay. At least on your end, definitely watch that a few times. See if there's anything that you see that could be improved. What I want to do is at least put a stop action after this so I can, on my own, watch it a few more times. This is actually a little bit different than the example I set up for myself, just testing out this lesson. So you know what? I'm gonna pause the video and check this out on my end and see if there's anything we can do that can make it even better. Let's see. Oh, I do want to just call this actions script. If I can type script, there we go. Okay, so I'll be back in 2 seconds. Okay, I've had a chance to look at this thing. A couple very small things we can do. When it goes from here to here, okay, let's do this. Let's go and send it out this way, really almost just kind of violently, all right? So like from this spot, boom, and then it goes back over there. Should look a lot nicer. In fact, you know, it could go even further that way. So it's just bam, wait, here we go. Bam, then slides into that spot over there. Let's jump inside of here. So double click on in. Let's get out to this point. Do this. Go and get inside of your the stroke animation. So pop back into here, and let's extend out this just a little bit out this way, maybe even to frame 60 or so. And at starting at about frame 40, let's do some pretty easy kind of lightning sparks or something like that along those lines. And yeah, that is actually pretty simple. Grab your brush tool, set it at its lowest setting, and in fact, you know what, let's go and zoom in just a tad bit. Alright, lock this layer below it, and in fact, before we even start, let's put a bunch of blank keyframes out this way. So I'm just selecting a big block of them. I'm going to hit F7, and that'll just blank them all out. In fact, you know what? Let's do a few more in the beginning. And then do this. Go and click on Onion Skin Outlines. You're going to get these two handles up here at the where your numbers are in the timeline. And what that'll do is it'll just kind of show you in wireframe the past stuff that you have done on this timeline. Lost my train of thought there. In fact, you know, a better way to show it for now is just let me drag it out this way and unlock this. And what you'd see, it might be kind of hard to see with this green here, but you'd see some of the previous animation on, or previous states, I should say, of that text on those frames. But it'll be kind of obvious once you see it in place over here. So let's start at this blanky one, and we will just pick out kind of anywhere here, and I'm just going to do something like that. Yours doesn't have to look that similar to mine. It's fine. Go ahead and hit the on the keyboard the greater than symbol, okay, or actually a little easier to remember, it's just the period key, and that will advance you to the next frame here, and you can see that it did turn into this wireframe, but it's showing us where it was, all right, even though we're not actually drawing on this frame anymore. And I'm just gonna continue where that one left off, and then I'm just hitting that period button again, just drawing a little bit more. I do try to redraw a little bit of where I left off between frames, so I'm just going to now start at that point. And if you want, you could even do some kind of sparks out this way. And we'll go down just a little bit over here. I'll have it kind of jump across from the N to the E, and in doing so, maybe it will kind of fork out a little bit. Let's see. So now we got two of them going. Let's have this one kind of wildly leap up. Another spark here. Keep this one going for a little bit. Draw that out. Draw this one. Let's start to finish off this one in just a couple frames. We'll do only a few more. When it gets to about here, let's go send it kind of inward to this part of the E. Actually, I'm going to go back one frame, just do a couple sparks over here. Kind of drawing those sparks falling down. And that's it for that part. We'll do one more spark. And then once you get to the very end, just be sure you do hit F7 again, just blank it out. So now if you were to watch this, it's just going to go across, and just trying to make sure I didn't actually skip any frames or jump forward too much. I think that's alright. And of course this symbol already has a filter on it, so we don't need to put another glow in there. It should look alright. So let's see, that'll come down somewhere around here where it's fading out. That's when those lightnings will occur. So let's go ahead and just take a look at that. Let's see. Oh, and you know what? My frame rate is set back up kind of high again. So let's watch this slow down. All right, coming up. There we go. I think that'll look kind of nice. You know what else I might consider doing? Let's do this. I'm going to jump back into that same symbol again, and at this final point here, what I'm going to do is, I'm not doing anything to the sparks. I'm going to do something to this actual stroke down here. I'm going to hit F6, and I'm going to, at this point, hit F8, which will convert it to a symbol. It's just the same command up here. Let's call it strokes again. And at this point, let's put another keyframe, and I'm just going to fade out that stroke just slightly. I think at about 33 to 25%, it should kind of give us like almost a glassy look at that point, instead of that just clearly obvious double kind of stroke that we have on there now. So let's take a look at how that looks. I think that is a lot better. See how it's just kind of now floating on top there. Just could maybe indicate that it's a glassy surface. So, okay, not too shabby. Let's do this. One last little thing. All right, so we know the 3 comes down at this point. Let's go and lock these other layers. This bottom layer of text, let's put a keyframe right here and right here. I'm going to go ahead and just put in my motion tween right now. I'm going to ease out this final part. And you know what, I might actually take this one back one frame so it's just kind of lined up with that one right there. And I'm just going to adjust the glow on this. So I'm going to make it red. And I might blur it out just a bit more on the X. We'll see how that looks. Yeah, something like that. And I think what I'll do is insert in a few more frames out this way, just so that has a chance to fade out kind of slowly. In fact, actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, if you did that a few times, it might kind of give you the impression that it's some sort of police lights. So if it goes from, so it's starting at this blue here, and then goes red, and you know, we'll try it. I probably won't want to keep doing that, but we'll see. So then it'll go at this point blue again, and then over here back to red, and then finally back down to kind of that subtle blue. So we'll see how that looks. That's definitely something I didn't think of doing before, but who knows? It's a cop movie. With lightning. A lot of lightning. Alright. I'll have to look at it at a normal frame rate to see if that makes any sense. But let's do this. Let's you guys do your own thing, save it, close it down, figure out what you like best, and I'll leave my final copy in that folder. And let's go and get the start file back open again. So I'm going to close this down. Okay, so get back to your main folder here. Open up the start file. I've already gone ahead and put in a new file that I will be working on. So I'm going to get them both open here. And there's the start file. Inside of the library, there's some text in here just called the Swamp Bling. And you can copy this out, just cut it right off, and go ahead and close down this document. I'll be working inside of here. Just going to go ahead and paste that in, and somehow my windows aren't sized up. There we go. Alright, you know, one thing I'm going to do actually is go ahead and double click inside of here and make this entire thing black. Alright, I know that's going to make it kind of hard to see it, but I guess for the time being what I could do is switch the background color to being gray. So I can just do that right here. And alright, so get back up here to scene 1. So this symbol is ready to go for us. And what we're going to do is kind of have this thing animate from being really murky, and you're not going to be able to figure out what the text says exactly. And then maybe 5-6 seconds later, it kind of just oozes into looking like a decent piece of looking text. And that's surprisingly easy. It's something you probably never really could have done in past versions without these filters, so take advantage of that again. And what I'm going to do is just go ahead and get out here to maybe frame 125 or so. That's about 8 seconds later if the frame rate's at 15, so that's definitely plenty of time. It does look pretty nice if you let it just kind of ooze in over a bit of time, so we'll make it kind of slow. Alright, now at this frame, go over here to your filters. First thing that we're going to set up is beveling. So this is going to be at 30. This will be at 48. Let's set this up to medium. You'll notice that kind of smooths out that stuff. And for the strength, we're going to go up all the way to, oops, no, about 400. And for the angle, we're going to do, actually I'm just going to type this in. I'm just going to do like 358. I guess essentially I could have just done 0 on that. And a distance, let's do 9. And now here's the fun thing. We're going to set this to go be full. Alright, you'll notice it just kind of blows out like that. And then, to further add to the fun, we're going to put this at knockout. Okay, and you can already tell that it's almost impossible to make out what that text is, but you can kind of see that this could possibly be a B over there. And by setting it to knockout, this should make it so that you can change the background to anything you really want, and you'll be able to see kind of the text through that, or not the text. You can just kind of see the background color through there. So I am going to actually go ahead and switch it back to black, just to kind of look like a scary horror movie. And now let's go ahead and add on, well, I'm going to go ahead and put the drop shadow on here, although we're not going to use it for right now. But I've just found that with these filters, sometimes it'll help you if you go ahead and put on just almost an empty filter for if you're going to be doing some motion tweening with it. So it's just kind of a placeholder, I guess, at this point. And last up, this filter is getting cut off. It's the adjust color, so throw that on there. And what I'm going to do is pull the brightness up a little bit, about 60. And that just ends up kind of adding a bit more color, or not so much color, but just a bit more mass to this thing, because it's filling in those outer edges of the beveling. And then I'm going to take the contrast up. Okay, so not too hard, huh? Let's go ahead and throw a motion tween on here, and it should go and try to get back to that original text there, which because it's black on black, it's you're not going to see it, but we're gonna finesse it a little bit. And actually, oddly enough, the weird thing is though is if we were to change the background color now, I don't think you would see it either because you don't see it because we have that knockout set in there. So when that's a little bit more obvious. You can see what's kind of going on there, especially if I were to move this this around. Look, that's what that knockout does. It just makes it so that the original shape is no longer viewable. So we will correct that situation, of course. But let me go ahead and set that back. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just moving that out a little. Before I get to that final frame, maybe about over here, I'm going to go ahead and put in a keyframe. I like how this looks a lot. At this point, you can kind of really start to make out the text, but almost you can't. If you knew what the title was, your mind might piece it together here. So I kind of just like this frame, so we're going to give that a keyframe, and then we can go and kind of set this to being something that makes a little bit more sense. Okay, so the beveling on this, let's go and change to being dark gray and dark gray for both the highlight and the shadow. Obviously, we're not really seeing that right now because we gotta set these up at something, maybe 2 and 2. The strength up at 100, and we're still not seeing much. There we go. Just gotta get that distance in there, and what you could do is, if you conceptually aren't really getting why I put that keyframe in there, just watch what happens if you were to get rid of it, because then this state in the very beginning is just interpolating between that state and this state, and I just liked it more with that one little keyframe in there, just kind of keeping us in this zone, and then it can kind of just turn back out into this thing, which you can tell, definitely you can see what's going on with it a bit better. And oddly enough too, it is still just this kind of knocked out text. So what we're going to do is actually put the same text underneath it, and I'll also add a glow onto that. But what else here? Let's see. I thought I did have a reason for putting this drop shadow on here. Let me see. Just going to put up at 100. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not really seeing much of a, well, I'll try this at 10 and 10. I don't know, this might have made more sense when it actually had something other than a black background over there. So let's see. Well, I don't know. We'll let that be a mystery. As for the color adjustment, this is fine back here at totally reset. Okay, so this isn't too hard. Just go ahead and copy this text, create another layer. We'll just call this oozing text and glowing final text. I'm going to start it at this point, so I'm going to put a blank keyframe right there. Just going to paste that in place. I'm going to make this invisible for right now. And I'm just going to actually remove all those filters that are on there. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and put the glow on. As for how this glow looks, let's call it a player's choice. You guys can choose what you think looks best. I'm going to go with this gray. And let me just put a keyframe out this way. I'm going to go ahead and do the motion tween, and then I'll just take it off here. Maybe I'll change the color just a little bit at that point. So you should get something like that at the very end. So let's check this out. We'll see how it's looking. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the very nice House of Wax logo. It didn't really stop at the end. Let's put a stop action here. And I think this could actually go and be, let's see, a bit longer. Oops. Sometimes that debugger pops up. Still have not figured out why. Yeah, so very slow like that. I think that's good. And you know what? For my glow at the end, I'm going to actually change that a bit. I'm going to take the color down to being there, and there we go. It should make it so it only just kind of comes up right at the very end. Okay. Still halfway through, can't really make it out, and then there we go. Oh, and that would work well with some sort of musical sting that's it's got some sort of crescendo to it, and then so you show the logo, and then you just fade it out and zoom it out. And actually, that's something you could consider doing too, which is making it smaller in the beginning here. So I'll just scale it down. Let's see, try like 80%. So now it's, I guess it almost kind of looks like it's growing out of something. And there we go. Let's see. So not bad. I kind of liked it just staying in place too. Let's do this. Let's go and open up one of our previous files. So let's get back over here. Let's see. That's it. Pop open your steamy light. So jump inside of that. And go unlock these top two layers if they're locked. And we're just going to copy these frames. Copy frames. Head back over here. Go ahead and insert new symbol. We'll call this there we go. Paste those frames on in there. But while we are in this symbol, let's go ahead and make an adjustment to the mask. What I'm going to do is chop off that. Actually, you know what? Let's see. Yeah. I'm just going to kind of make this into the shape of that text that we just have on there. So something like this. I guess some sort of like trapezoid. And it ought to look okay. For the mask, let's go and pop open the color mixer. If you don't already have that open, it's going to set the it to be a linear gradient, and I'm going to tilt the gradient like so. What it'll do is it'll fade out the end there. Although I think let's see. By default, when you switch to linear like that, it usually does a white to black, so just be sure that what you have is either a white or a black over here. It might not actually matter for this. So we're going to take that down all the way. It should be something like this. This, on the other hand, this is fine back over here at 100%. Although, you know what, you could do this. You could move this swatch out and then put another one in there. Take that down to 0. So then it's fading in from the beginning and at the end. That could look kind of nice. I guess if you do that too, just you can move this out here. Keep in mind this whole mask is blurred anyway. So that's, there you go. Alright, get back up here to scene 1. We do have to place that onto the stage. So we'll call this Steam. That was action script. Okay. So with your library open, This doesn't look pretty, does it? But once we get it on there, it should look alright. And keep in mind too that if you copy those top 3 layers from this file, okay, you also copied in that action script, so that's going to work inside of that symbol now. So it should be ready to go. And let's see, let's test it. Alrighty. Just adds a little extra something in there, kind of detracts maybe a little bit more from what's actually going on, which is that text coming in to view. And I think it has gone ahead and stopped. There we go. Alright, I think that's looking pretty nice. There's probably maybe a million more things we could do to this, but let's go ahead and call it a day for just this. We're going to go do a little bit more. So save that up, publish it out, check out my version 2, and get the start file back open again. Okay, so pop open that start file. There it is. And what you will have in the library here is this symbol. Just go ahead and drag it out, cut it off of here, and paste it into a new document. I've called this document Cybershine, named after the text that I'm going to paste in here. I'm viewing it as wireframe right now because it is black text and obviously the black background. But you know, you can go ahead and delete it off for the moment. You just want to get it in the library. First thing that we are going to do is go grab the brush tool, and with the color mixer open, here we are. Go and set this to a linear gradient, and on one side of this you want to have a full 100% white, okay, and then on the other side here it can be white, but just get it down to 0%. So it's just going to be a nice little fade, and oops, didn't want to do that. Let me go create one more layer up this way, and I'll just call this clouds. Alright, so just a little freeform drawing here. It doesn't have to necessarily look exactly like mine. Something like this. You want to keep kind of the length of it about the same though, but what you do inside here is kind of up to you. And then you can also just take the brush size down a little bit. Maybe do some cloudy wisps out this way. Alright. When you get that done, go ahead and select everything down there, convert it to a symbol, call this cloud, and with our filters, go ahead and add a blur onto it. I'm going to set the quality to medium, and then I'm just going to do the obvious thing here. Blur it out like so. And play around with it. Your settings, you can definitely vary them a little bit. I tend to notice that if the lower this is, the more kind of, I guess, bulky the cloud looks. More like those, you know, marshmallow looking cloud shapes. That looks pretty nice right there. And then once you get that done, return to your library and just drag out this text. I'm actually going to jump up a layer here and drag it out onto that one. So it's now just kind of a backdrop for that. I'll call this text. And once you get it selected, flip over here to your properties. Just add a bevel onto it. For the X blurring, let's go to 2. For the Y, we're going to do 2 as well. For the distance, set that as 2, so it's just kind of subtle now. And let's do this. I'm going to copy this cloud back here, paste it. Actually, I want to paste it onto this layer with the text or a layer above it, and just make it a little bit smaller, maybe a little, take down the height of it some, and just have just a bit of it layered on top of that. I think that looks pretty nice. And what we will do now is behind the clouds. So let me make a, actually, you know what, in front of the clouds, I should say. We're going to create a layer called sun, and let's do another layer called lens flare. And I'll give you an indication of where this tutorial's headed. Let's insert some frames out here to animate this. For the sun, we're not going to go too spectacularly difficult. Just circle, and you guessed it, same thing we did in that last lesson. Oops, there we go. Just put a glow on it. Yep, not too momentous. And bump the strength up like that. Alright. So what I want to do is have this sun kind of just creep up like that. Alright. I think the fun thing though that we can do is we'll start it down there at the bottom of the sea, and let's go ahead and animate it upwards. We'll ease this out. So I'll just kind of fill in that space right there. Go ahead and copy the same symbol now at that spot. Let's go ahead and create another layer. We'll call this mask, and you guessed it, just paste in place that same symbol right there. We do got to give it an instance name. We'll call it mask, and in fact I forgot to give this other one an instance name. And actually that's something good to note, is that if you do happen to decide after the fact that you want to put an instance name on something and you've already animated it, be sure you get that instance name on all frames of it. Alright, so I got to put one here now, and I got to write that same instance name right over here. Okay, got it. Sometimes if you get into a situation like that, you almost just have to clear out your keyframes too if you put too many on there, unless you want to spend forever writing that instance name. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to do mask.set mask sun. That should work. Let's check it out. And there we go. So just kind of the sun rises out from within that letter C. Let's make it take a bit longer. Okay. Just personal preference, I do like to just take my script layers, oops, and put them all up at the top there. I just drag that up. Okay, now for the lens flare, let's just go and create a circle. Let me lock up all these other layers. And let's see, there we go. In fact, I'll make these other ones invisible as well. Okay, so get your circle out here. You can copy and paste in place with it still selected. Go over here to transform, scale and rotate. Set this down at maybe 90. That's probably good. Go ahead and change the color, and then just release it, then delete out that shape. Got it? Alright, and we'll just call this flare. Pretty obvious. Blur. Do something like this. And let's also go to properties. We'll just set the alpha down, something like that. I think that'll 25%, 26%. Looks good. Let's view these again. And what we'll do is now move this frame to right about over here. Let's put a keyframe at this point. Do a motion between. Let's go ahead and set the easing outwards. Did we do that in this other one? Yeah, we did. Okay. And now let's just scale this down. You know what? I think it might be a good idea to take this above the text layer. Let's see how that looks. You know what? Sometimes when you motion between these symbols with a filter on them, you can't really see it in the work area, because look how it's kind of popping at that point. I think if we were to publish this, that wouldn't be happening. Let's just take a look. Yeah, see, that's normal. All right. Let's do this though. Let's pull that back a little bit and have these finish up just a little bit closer to each other. So if you're to watch it now, sun's rising and bing. One little thing I kind of want to do is just jump inside of here, and I'm going to make this a bit thinner. So I'm going to go to expand fill, if you guys have already forgotten where that's at, right there. And I'm going to inset this by 5 pixels. So see how that thinned that out a little bit. Now let's take a look at it. Okay, I think that looks a lot better. And let's do this. We'll create another layer. We'll call this beams of light. This will be equally easy. Let me just make all those invisible for right now. And I'm going to create a square out here. Move this point down here, holding down the control key or the option key. Just creating another point. Bam, bam. There we go. Okay, nothing too fancy. Convert to symbols, call these beams, and let's make these visible now. Alright, this I might actually drag beneath the text here. So it's just going to start right about there. And let's go and with the free transform tool selected, just move this center point right there, the pivot point, and that way we can just kind of rotate it around there. And let's do this. Let's go ahead and get the filter on it. We're going to do a blur here. Let's see, let me set this up at medium, and I'm going to take this down just a little bit. Take that up. Something like that. Might make these a bit smaller. And in fact, you know what, let me dive inside of here and just thin out these ones on the outer edge. So I'm just moving around that point some. That one became almost, you can't even see it now. Let's see. I do want to be able to see it. Okay, well, a little bit better. Just a little softer. Okay, I'm going to drag this frame maybe about out to there, and I'm going to hit F6. Just rotate this and make it smaller. Motion tween, ease out. Oh, you know what? I got these frames in reverse, I'm sorry. This one I want over here, and this one I want over here. And we don't need that. There we go. Okay, so this is just going to kind of come up like so and ease into position. Let's do this though. Let me squash this a little bit here. Alright, I think that'll look better. And this is just a simple effect. There's nothing spectacular. There we go. And one other thing I might do is go create another layer up this way and just select these frames, copy them, and paste them right up here, okay? And make this frame a bit bigger now, okay? Like that. This one you can start in the same place. It doesn't really matter too much. I might make it just a tad bigger, so maybe like 110. Oops, no, 110%. And when it gets out here, let's go and take the filter down a lot. So something like that. You know what? Let's make these numbers even. And I'm going to take the alpha down just a little bit. There we go. I think that looks good. You could even consider maybe offsetting the lens flares. So like doing one over there like that. Sometimes that looks good as well. There you go. Maybe not that far off. And you know what? Let me actually. These feel like they're not even. I don't know. One side seems a little thicker than the other. I don't know why. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's do this. I got a few too many frames out here at the end. And let's put a blank keyframe out here, hit F7. Of course, let's just hit stop so it doesn't loop constantly. Let's consider one last little thing maybe we can do to this. Obviously, we could have the clouds moving. You guys can figure that out on your own. I'm just trying to think of something to do with the text. Alright, let's do this. Well, this won't be groundbreaking, but actually, I don't think we've done a shape tween yet, so at least I can demonstrate that. Go ahead and create another layer above this text, and actually, before we do anything else, I forgot that we have this cloud on that same layer of the text. Go ahead and take that off of there, and paste it onto that layer you just created. We'll just call this cloud front, and then select that text layer, create one more layer. We'll call this shape tween mask. Alright, and this will be really simple. Just grab the square tool, put a square right here in front of the C. And you know, if you want to move this one vector point to cover up that part of the C, go ahead and do it. Alright, because we don't want to mess with that C. I like how that's there. What we'll do though is make it so that we reveal the rest of these letters as the animation plays through. So just go over here and hit F6, drag out this box like so. If you want, you can just straighten it out toward the end like that. And then in the middle here, just pull down shape tween instead of motion like we've usually been doing. You'll see exactly what goes on. Not too hard to figure out. And then right click, go to mask, and you should get something like this that occurs. Like I said, nothing spectacular. Let's ease it out though toward the end. And we might want to even just tighten up these frames a little bit. That way this text can kind of finish out doing its thing, and then we can focus on that the lens flare. There we go. A little faster, and then that comes up. Okay, that's going to do it for part 3. You know what? I didn't get to everything I wanted to do, so there's going to be a part 4. So I'll be back.